What up, y'all? Today is What's Up Wednesday, where we go on a little learning adventure together and find ways to improve our production together. I've definitely been making beats for a while and know tons of in and outs of FL Studio, but there's still tons of stuff for me to learn. So I figure while I'm learning new stuff, I'll just show you what I'm doing as I go and we can learn together. Let's get to it. Let's look at improving our bass lines.
Hello producers, it's Özgün here. Today I will show you just one simple technique and it will help you to make standout bass lines.
I feel like this guy is gonna kidnap me.
And I will show you a drum loop that I created a couple minutes ago. The bass definitely needs more volume. Today I will show you one different technique that you can utilize to your bass sound, and it's gonna be really upfront and you will probably really like the result. First of all, let's create a bus and we will send the bass signal to that bus and we will parallel process it. And I will just send my signal to that channel.
I literally just went over parallel processing for drums. I know you can do it with the bass, so I'm very interested to see how he does it.
It could be wise if I group these two channel in a bass final group, because if I process them like this, I gotta make sidechain to this channel too. But if I group them in here, I don't need any separate sidechain. One sidechain could go for all. So let's just route them here, not to the master bus. And I will add a separator. And I will control click, select them, change the color of them.
I did not know you could add a separator on the mixer track or the mixer channel. It's pretty cool. I also don't do all this color coding stuff for the mixer channel. It's not a good idea to do that. It's just I'm sloppy like that.
So right now the bass final group will play both my dry bass signal and the parallel process signal. I will just load the distortion plugin in here. Decapitator is one of my favorite distortion plugins from Soundgoodizer. Let's just only hear the wet signal. I will just lower the amount of the signal that's going to the bass final, and with this we will be only hear parallel bass channel. Let's hear it. You can distort the signal at your taste. It depends on the track. It depends on what you want to achieve. So right now we are not pushing it too hard. Just the average level. We will keep it just an average level. Let's put an equalizer to it, because we will already have our low end in the original bass channel. So the parallel channel should have only mids and highs. Let's do it like this.
That is a good idea with parallel processing. On the parallel channel, you don't really need all the low end because you're getting it from the original. Really the point of adding saturation to a bass line is to be able to hear it in the upper harmonics, make it sound like a fuller sound, a fuller bass. So that's a good technique, is just to put EQ on just the channel that's parallel processed. Interesting.
Perfect.
Alright, so this video is pretty good, pretty helpful. Whatever your name was again, Özgün, throw you a like. But I don't have Decapitator or a bunch of the plugins that he was putting in that he's trying to promote or whatever. So let's see what stock sounds we can add saturation with FL Studio. All right, my dude in the mix. All the mixing techniques that you need, this guy's got them. It's legit. He's got a huge channel. It's kind of hard to find some of the stuff that you want sometimes. So that's why I'm here. But this dude's legit.
You've probably come across the term saturation. Also where you can use it in your mix. So let's start with a little bit of context about what saturation is and where it came from. When it comes to audio, saturation is referring to the sound heard when an analog recording device or medium, such as tape, like a tape machine, or a preamp or a console, is driven too loud, so like too hot of a signal, and the audio starts to distort and break up. But unlike digital distortion or digital clipping, where it hits zero and then it just starts cracking and sounds terrible, usually the way the audio breaks up in the analog domain sounds really nice and really pleasing. There's loads of different characters to this saturation. So there's harmonics that are added, and I'll demonstrate this in a moment. There's distortion, there's fluttering, there's sort of compression, all sorts of stuff changes with the sound depending on whether it's tape saturation, tube saturation, or another form of saturation. All of these distortions and characteristics are all due to the imperfection of that recording medium, but it just so happens to be that those imperfections actually sound really good to the human ear depending on what source it's used on. So in this case, I have a free saturation plugin on the left of the screen, I have a frequency analyzer on the right, and I'm driving a pure sine wave into this. As you can see, there is just one single tone, but as I increase the saturation amount, these upper harmonics are added to the sound. The more I turn it, the louder these harmonics become until the distortion occurs. This is often why saturation sounds so pleasing. It can fill out a sound and really make it feel rich and full. But let's hear a few examples where I'm going to drive it a little bit into the distortion. So the first one's going to be on a drum kit, and I've summed it all into one channel, and I'm going to saturate the whole kit with a tube saturation plugin. I'm also controlling the gain into and out of
Come on, man, I'm trying to get FL stock
now,
stuff. Oh, I need to spell stock right. Soundgoodizer. Oh.
We've all used the Soundgoodizer from time to time.
No, we haven't. I have no idea what this thing is. And it's a stock FL plugin. I'm a dummy.
Plugin appears to make anything you use it on sound better, right? But exactly how does it work? And why does it make everything sound so much better? This all has to do with compression. There's nothing magical about the Soundgoodizer. It really just does two things: compression and saturation. It has just 4 settings and 1 intensity knob. The intensity knob is like a dry-wet knob. In other words, how much of the effect is being applied to the original signal. Here's a simple illustration to show how this works. The main reason why it makes everything sound huge is because it's compressing.
So it's kind of like parallel processing in one little plugin. Tight.
In order to understand how it does this, we need to take a quick look at how a compressor works. A compressor is actually very simple.
There's nothing simple about compression.
It reduces the volume of the loudest elements. A makeup gain is then added to bring the overall volume back up. Depending on the amount of compression, the dynamic range is decreased accordingly. The difference between loud and quiet becomes less and less. This means that the quieter parts of the sound, which were previously inaudible, can now be heard loud and clear. This will obviously make the sound much fuller, so the compression is what makes the sound appear huge. The last component is saturation, which is basically just distortion. Watch what happens when I apply distortion to the sound. The Soundgoodizer's 4 presets come from Maximus, which is FL Studio's flagship multi-band compressor. If you want to know exactly what the Soundgoodizer does, you can then load up the various presets in Maximus and study the settings. This can also help you learn how to set up a compressor yourself. As you can see, they all have slightly different settings in terms of attack, release, and so on. Since Maximus is a multi-band compressor, it can compress different parts of the frequency spectrum differently at the same time. This is the main reason why the 4 presets sound so different. One setting will make the highs stand out, another will make the mids stand out, and so on. They also have different saturation settings. The dry-wet knob you see here is the same as the main knob on the Soundgoodizer. It determines how much of the effect is being applied.
This guy spells like me.
Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of how the Soundgoodizer works.
I do.
I've noticed that some people like to make fun of anyone who uses the Soundgoodizer. Obviously, they have no idea how the Soundgoodizer actually works. If this ever happens to you, you should just ask them if they ever compress their sounds. They will no doubt answer yes. In that case, you can now enlighten them and let them know that the Soundgoodizer is, for the most part, a compressor too. A similar plugin would
I know you're a compressor, but what am I?
be the sausage fattener.
Alright, I feel like a complete noob. I had no idea what the Soundgoodizer does, and there's definitely times where I want to brighten either the sample or the bass line in the track, and I have not even tried this, so I'm going to try it right now. Alright, let's pull up this DMX remix that I did. Alright, I'm going to mute DMX right now, but let's... Alright, I can definitely tell the difference that it makes with the sample, helping it stand out more. A couple of the presets made it stand out better. Some of them were focused, I think, more on the low end, so they didn't really do much, but that's cool. Definitely going to use that now. Let's see what it does on the bass. Immediately. I didn't even change and screw around with the knobs yet, but immediately. I'm a noob. This is disheartening. I've been trying to help just get that little edge with my bass line for so long. And there's this plugin where all you do is turn a knob. Hey, at least I started this What's Up Wednesday so I could learn stuff and you guys can watch me be an idiot. Soundgoodizer. Let's go. Firewalk. Good stuff. There's definitely more stuff you can probably do with your bass lines to jazz them up a little bit, but my theory is if I just make incremental steps every day in certain things, then I'm eventually going to get better. Yeah, so I could probably do a bunch of other stuff with saturation to help improve like the bass line and samples and stuff, but that one thing right there, that's huge. Jesus, look how I spell saturation. Alright, let's look at this.
Today, I want to get into advanced EQing techniques for your 808s.
That's a heavy bass boost that he's got going on right there. I mean, that might make the bass sound louder, but I'm worried that would just screw up the mix for the rest of the instruments. I don't know. Maybe this guy knows what he's talking about.
With span, all I have playing is just the 808. You'll notice that even though I have these low frequencies cut, I still have some low end playing. So it's not that you actually want to cut out all the frequencies below 20 or 30 hertz or whatever. You just want to give it a nice little cut so that you're not having an overwhelming amount of those lower end frequencies, because on higher end speakers, on bigger speakers in general, you're going to feel those frequencies. So you might not necessarily hear them, but you will feel them. And the reason you duck them out is because these actually have the most energy.
Yeah, that's probably a good tip. Most people can't hear the low end frequencies down there on the 20-30 hertz mark. I think sometimes I cut it out completely. Sometimes I don't. But that's probably the best medium for rolling off the super low end of your bass line is you want to cut it a little bit, but you don't want to cut it so much that when it is on a big professional sound system, you can't feel it at all. All right, good tip. Pause for a moment to check out this dude's organization over here. I mean, he's got color-coded, he's got symbols. This guy's a little OCD. Maybe he does know what he's talking about.
Here's another trick, if you didn't know this. Where it says save preset as, you can actually drag this into a new slot and it'll copy the exact settings.
I used to know that and I forgot it and he just reminded me of it. Throwing this dude a like. Good work, in-flight music. All right, that's some good stuff. Let's head to Reddit. If you're not on the Making Hip Hop subreddit, you're just missing out on tons of good information, tons of good discussions, and just general fun internet bullshit. I just met Ninth Wonder at the music store I work at. I had no idea it was him. I was demoing some JBL monitors for him, but I couldn't figure out how to get the volume up high, and just told him, trust me, they'll sound good when you bring them home. And he was like, all right. Then I was checking him out at the register and asked him for his email. He said, yeah, it's ninthwonder@whatever.com. I just said, you're not the Ninth Wonder, are you? Then he pulled down his mask and said, actually, I am. That's pretty cool. I used to rap in a fake New York accent, and I didn't even realize. Title says it all, just saying in case anyone feels insecure about their voice when they rap. I've done worse, trust me. So yeah, I didn't even notice it for years, but I was freestyling with my friends or just rapping something written. I'd subconsciously slip into a fake as fuck New York accent. I never noticed it until I was freestyling with some friends. Some guy walked to me and asked, hey, why are you always rap like that worm bitch from SpongeBob who likes chocolate? Is it better to make music with what you have or wait until you have professionally just better equipment? Bro, just make music with whatever you have. Hip-hop started with a turntable. Now we got computers and MIDI devices and all these software for plugins and all this. Just get after it. Any good MPC for FL Studio? Are there any good, nice-looking MPC for FL Studio? Ableton has the Push 2. Machine has the MK2. I know there are some for FL Studio. So when it comes to MPCs, basically it's a MIDI controller, kind of like a controller for your video game console. It doesn't really matter what the controller is. You're just pressing buttons to send signals to the actual software. Any MPC that has a MIDI component, you can use in FL Studio. Is Omnisphere worth it? I got an unexpected amount of money coming my way, and I was thinking of investing in my music production, but is Omnisphere really worth it? I understand that all the best producers are using it, but $500 for a plugin? Damn! Are there cheaper alternatives with the same quality? I've never used Omnisphere. I'm actually very interested in this question because it might be something I get in the future. I've just never really focused on doing melodies. I always sample everything, so let's see what they say. Omni was big for a while. I see a lot of producers deviating from it recently. Seems like Nexus 3 is fairly big right now. There's things like Serum, Keyscape. If you're going that route, you might want to get Electra X instead of Serum. Just pirate it rather than spend $500. It is what it is. When I make beats, how long should I make the intros? Short. I started making beats and found an artist who wants to work with me. How should I go about this? Been on my own just making beats and finally started getting noticed. I've offered and reached out to artists offering to make instrumentals for them as well as mixing, mastering their vocals onto my track. The agreement was I'm not charging for anything, but if the song blows up like 50K views or whatever, I ask for 40% unless the song is split more than just 40-60 to the artist, then I'll renegotiate. I only ask I be credited in hopes more artists will find me and want to work with me. Do I just email him a tagged wave of my beat and ask him to record his vocals as a separate track? Then I get on my own DAW, polish up the vocals with all my plugins, remaster the track, and send it back. Stoked to work with my first artist, just wanted to make sure I have the correct approach. Thank you. So when you're working with an artist, there's no blueprint of like, this is how you should do it. If anything, you need to understand more about the person that you are working with. This particular situation, if you're someone that feels confident enough to mix and master vocals, then you should be the one that does that. If you come across an artist that has already done a good job of perfecting their vocals, maybe you should have them mix and master it in. I think the biggest overall issue with people working with artists for the first time is that they kind of just wait for the other person to make a move. Kind of like a first date. It's like, who's going to make the first move? I think the best thing to do is just tell them, hey, I want to do this, and that. Let me know if you have any other suggestions or you want to do it differently. I would just take control of the situation. Tell the artist exactly what you're going to do. And then if the artist doesn't like it, they can suggest something else. And then just be flexible from there. The one issue that people run into is they want to be nice, they want to be easy to work with, but they don't have any direction. So it's just a back and forth of, what do you think we should do? I don't know. What do you think we should do? Like, someone has to be the commander and just drive it. So it's either the person you're working with or it's you. If you read the person and they don't seem to be the one taking control, then it's got to be you. And then just make it happen. You know as a producer how the track is going to end up. A lot of times the artist doesn't. So take control of the situation, say what's going to happen. If they make suggestions, just be flexible afterwards. It's kind of like when you go to Chipotle. They always ask you, which beans do you want? Black beans or pinto? I never want the beans. I just always tell them, no, neither. I'll take the fajitas, please. But Chipotle's not sitting there asking, well, which ingredients do you want? They give you a suggestion and then let you change it after. And that's probably the best way to work with an artist, especially if you're new, he's new. Best way to do it. Producer of the year. Alchemist coming in at number 1. Bro, Conway, Lulu. It's only 6 songs, but that's 6 bangers. Hit Boy's up there. Hit Boy just did Nas's album, which is pretty tight. Exclusive beats. If I sell a beat as an exclusive, I'm able to still keep it on my SoundCloud. I want to have it on there as a record for myself to show anyone interested in commissioning a beat, but I have no intent on promoting it for sale. Is this okay? Yeah, just put sold on it. Just change the title, sold. And if someone asks you to sell it, don't. All right, y'all, that's it for What's Up Wednesday today. We went over some EQ stuff for the bass. We learned about some Soundgoodizer. We trolled people on Reddit for a little bit. Learned something new today. That's pretty cool. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I know a lot about FL Studio making beats, but there's still tons of stuff to learn, just like pretty much everybody else out there. So if you got any questions for me that you think I might be able to handle, please let me know. And of course, if you got any good tips or any good resources out there for me so I can learn, definitely share with it. HBO, help a brother out. Come on. Dat Boy, Greek Indian Beats. Thank you for watching the video. Catch y'all later.